Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that may shock you, a truth that many don't want to talk about, but one that's far too real. People over 60 often avoid others, not because they don't care, but because they're protecting themselves. Now, you might think this is just about aging or loneliness or something simple like that, but I'm here to tell you it's much deeper than that. There's a reason why as people get older, they pull away from the world around them. And it's something we all need to understand. The first thing we have to realize is the fear of being judged or misunderstood. As we age, we go through changes that the world sometimes doesn't understand. People over 60 often feel like they don't fit in anymore. They feel disconnected from younger generations, from a society that values youth, energy, and constant hustle. It's like they've been cast aside, as if their wisdom and experience no longer hold value. And that's where the fear sets in. They begin to believe that others see them as out of touch, irrelevant, or even weak. So rather than face the judgment, they withdraw. They isolate themselves to protect their dignity. But here's the thing, their silence isn't weakness, it's protection. They don't want to be misunderstood, so they retreat into their own space where they can hold on to the parts of themselves that still matter. Second, it's the desire for independence. As we age, there's a natural instinct to hold on to our independence. We've spent decades building our lives, raising families, working hard. We've fought for every ounce of freedom we have. But as we grow older, we sometimes feel like we're losing that autonomy. We don't want to be a burden on anyone. We don't want to need help. So we isolate ourselves, not out of malice or loneliness, but because we don't want to appear weak or needy. We want to remain the ones who give, the ones who take care of others, not the ones who need care themselves. But here's the truth, independence doesn't mean isolation. It means owning your space while still allowing others to be a part of your journey. Next, we have to talk about the weight of loss and grief. Life's not easy, and as we get older, we experience more of it. We lose loved ones, friends, and sometimes even parts of ourselves. People over 60 have gone through more loss than many of us will ever experience. And let me tell you, that loss is heavy. It cuts deep. And sometimes it's easier to isolate yourself than to face the emotional weight that comes with it. People pull away because they're trying to protect themselves from more grief, from more heartache. They've already given so much, lost so much, and sometimes the idea of opening up again feels like an invitation for more pain. But listen to me, grief isn't a sign of weakness, it's a testament to how deeply they loved. And that's something worth understanding, not avoiding. Then we come to the changing nature of relationships. As people grow older, their relationships evolve. Friends move away, families grow up, and the connections they once had may not be the same anymore. What do you do when the relationships you depended on start to fade or change? You might start to feel like you don't belong anymore, like your place in the world is shifting in ways you can't control. And that discomfort, it pushes people to withdraw. They don't know how to navigate these changes, so instead of struggling through it, they retreat. But here's the truth, change is inevitable, and it's part of life's journey. Rather than avoiding it, we should embrace it, because sometimes the relationships that evolve are the ones that challenge us to grow. Lastly, let's talk about the need for peace and quiet. We live in a world that's constantly moving, constantly demanding our attention. But after decades of raising kids, working jobs, and juggling the chaos of life, many people over 60 just want peace. They want quiet. They want a break from the noise. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's necessary for their well-being. So they choose solitude. They choose to step back from the hustle, from the drama, from the chaos, because what they really need is time to reflect, time to heal, and time to reconnect with their inner peace. Peace is not a luxury, it's a necessity. We all need it, no matter our age. So what's the shocking reason behind why people over 60 avoid others? It's not because they don't care or because they're not capable of love and connection. It's because they're protecting themselves from judgment, from the loss of their independence, from grief, from the discomfort of changing relationships, and from the overwhelming noise of life. They need time to process, time to heal, and time to focus on what truly matters to them. If you've got someone in your life over 60 who's pulling away, don't judge them. Understand them. Reach out, but do so with patience, with empathy, and with a willingness to listen. Because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing: to be understood, to be respected, and to be loved. And when you understand the reasons why people over 60 avoid others, you'll realize that the best thing you can do is simply show up with an open heart. Because sometimes that's all they really need. When we talk about fear, we often think about things like failure or rejection. But one of the most paralyzing fears people face as they get older is the fear of being judged or misunderstood. It's deeper than simply being critiqued. It's a fear that cuts right to the core of who we are, of how we see ourselves and how we believe others see us. When you've lived decades on this earth, when you've seen the world change and felt the weight of time pushing against you, being judged for who you are or what you've become feels like the ultimate betrayal. It's not just about what people think, it's about whether or not they truly understand the journey you've been on. And let me tell you, that's a fear that a lot of people over 60 wrestle with silently. As we grow older, the world around us moves faster, and the way people live their lives often changes in ways that can make us feel like we don't belong anymore. The younger generation's values, their pace, their priorities, sometimes it can all feel foreign. You might find yourself thinking, am I still relevant in a world that's constantly evolving? You feel like the world is leaving you behind. And in that space, judgment feels imminent. You think people are looking at you and seeing the wrinkles on your face or the gray in your hair or the signs of a life lived long and hard. And what comes with that? The assumption that you're out of touch, that you're no longer able to contribute, or that your value is somehow diminished just because time has passed. That's where the fear of being misunderstood creeps in. Let me remind you of something important. You are not your age. You are not the sum of your wrinkles or your gray hair. You are not defined by how the world around you chooses to see you. You are defined by your experiences, your wisdom, your resilience, and your ability to keep going in the face of everything life has thrown at you. That's where the value lies. But when others don't take the time to understand that, when they don't see the depth of your journey or the strength it took to get to where you are, it's easy to feel like you're being judged. But here's the reality: people don't understand what they haven't lived through, and they can't truly comprehend your experiences unless they've walked in your shoes. And that's exactly why we pull away. We retreat into ourselves because it feels safer than opening up and risking judgment. The older we get, the less we want to explain ourselves. We don't want to be misunderstood. We don't want to have to justify the choices we've made or the things we believe. We've fought long and hard for the wisdom we have, and sometimes it feels like the world isn't ready to listen or even acknowledge it. So we distance ourselves from the very people who could benefit from our experiences, our stories, and our insights. But I want you to know something: just because they don't understand you doesn't mean you're wrong. It doesn't mean your experiences are less valuable. The world may be changing, but the depth of what you've lived through can never be taken away. The fear of being judged or misunderstood isn't just about the opinions of others, it's about how those judgments make us question our own worth. It makes us doubt our value, our relevance, and our place in the world. But here's the truth: your worth is not defined by anyone else's understanding of you. It's defined by you, by the strength you've shown, the challenges you've overcome, and the wisdom you've gained along the way. The fear of being judged or misunderstood is real, but it's also a reminder that we must value ourselves for who we are, not for how others perceive us. You've earned the right to be who you are unapologetically, and the people who truly matter will see you for that. They'll understand you, even if it takes time, but don't hide away because of fear. Don't dim your light because of what you think others might think. You've got too much to offer. And no judgment, no misunderstanding can ever take that away from you. There comes a point in life when every individual starts to recognize the value of independence. It's a feeling that's woven into the very fabric of who we are, a quiet power that grows stronger with age. As we get older, something inside us shifts. The years we've spent building, giving, and contributing to the world around us bring us to a place where we long to stand on our own, to take control of our own decisions, our own actions, and our own lives. There's a reason for this, and it's not just about physical strength or the ability to take care of oneself. It's a deep internal desire to live life on our terms, to retain our autonomy in a world that's constantly shifting and changing. You see, when you've spent a lifetime helping others, whether that's raising children, building a career, or simply being a shoulder for others to lean on, you begin to crave something more. The thought of needing help, of relying on someone else for things that once felt effortless, can feel like a loss of self. And let me tell you, that's a tough pill to swallow. Independence becomes more than just an external freedom, it becomes a cornerstone of personal dignity. It's about preserving the sense of self that was so hard-earned. It's about not losing that piece of yourself that made you strong, made you resilient, made you who you are. But here's the truth: independence isn't about shutting others out. It's not about isolating yourself from the people who care about you. It's about preserving your ability to make your own choices, to live your life without the feeling that you are a burden. It's about saying, I have lived through struggles, through triumphs, and through heartache, and yet I stand on my feet. I have my own story, and I own that story. When you've lived a full life, you've earned the right to make decisions for yourself, without feeling as though someone else has to dictate how you should be living. And you know what? It's okay to want to take care of yourself, to feel like you're still in control. In fact, that's what keeps you sharp, keeps you motivated, keeps you moving. The need for independence is about maintaining your sense of purpose. It's the fuel that keeps your fire alive. If you stop making choices, if you stop living by your own standards, you lose something precious. But here's the thing: independence doesn't mean you're alone. It doesn't mean you turn your back on others or refuse their help. It means you choose how and when you want to accept help, and you choose what feels right for you. The desire for independence is a recognition that you've earned your place in this world. You've worked for it. You've sacrificed, and you've learned the lessons that come with living a full life. You know what it means to stand on your own 2 feet, and you know what it means to ask for help when you need it. But in the end, it's about owning your journey and walking through life with your head held high, knowing that every step you take is yours alone. Independence is your right. It's your power. And nobody, no situation, and no person can take that away from you. As you age, you realize that the desire for independence is not just about surviving, it's about thriving on your terms. It's about holding on to that piece of yourself that is untouchable, unshakable, and uniquely yours. That's what independence is all about. It's not about rejecting others, it's about standing firm in who you are. It's about holding your ground, setting boundaries, and making sure that the world around you respects that. And when you live like that, when you live with independence as your foundation, you become a beacon for others who are learning to do the same. You become an inspiration. You show people that it's not just about living, but about living on your own terms. And that, my friends, is a power that never fades. There's something that many people over 60 carry with them that others might never fully understand: the weight of loss and grief. We all experience loss in different ways, but as you age, that burden often becomes heavier, more complex, and harder to shake off. It's the loss of loved ones, friends, partners, and sometimes even the parts of yourself that you once knew so well. It's not just the people you've lost, but the life that's shifted around you, the years that have passed, the dreams that have either faded or been altered. And as that grief builds up, it's easy to see why many choose to retreat into themselves. Because sometimes the pain of that loss feels like it's too much to bear in the world that keeps moving forward. But let me tell you something, grief is not a sign of weakness. Grief is the price we pay for loving deeply. It's the evidence of a life well lived, of relationships that mattered, of connections that meant something. And even though it might feel like it's too heavy to carry, it's important to remember that grief doesn't make you less, it makes you human. It shows your capacity to feel, to care, and to mourn what was. Because in this world, when you lose something or someone you truly love, that hole left behind is deep. And as much as the world may move on, that hole doesn't just fill itself with time. Sometimes you have to work through the weight of it piece by piece. And when you reach a certain age, when you've lived through decades of experiences, the losses can start to feel like a series of bricks stacked upon you. One loss is hard enough, but the accumulation of so many over the years begins to add up. It can feel overwhelming, like every time you try to pick yourself up, another loss comes crashing down. And the idea of facing that loss in the world with people who might not truly understand the depth of it can be terrifying. So what do? You retreat, you isolate, you start to protect yourself. Because it's easier to shut the door and keep the pain locked inside than to face the world with that weight on your shoulders. But here's what people don't always realize: grief is not something you just get over. It's something you carry with you, but it doesn't have to define you. You can move forward with grief, but that doesn't mean you have to forget the love, the memories, the connections that you've lost. And yes, sometimes you need to step back and give yourself the space to mourn, to heal, and to process that pain. But you have to understand that grief doesn't make you weaker. In fact, it's the very thing that can make you stronger. It's what allows you to understand life at a deeper level, to appreciate the moments you have, to hold on to what matters, and to let go of what no longer serves you. As people grow older, they often become more introspective. They've seen more, they've lived more, and they've loved more. And with that comes an awareness that time is limited, that nothing in life is guaranteed. And when people experience the loss of a loved one, they sometimes retreat into themselves because they're afraid of feeling that loss again. It's easier to stay isolated than to open yourself up to the possibility of more pain. But isolation, while it may feel safer, doesn't allow for healing. It doesn't allow you to take what you've learned from your grief and use it to grow, to connect, and to live a fuller life. It just keeps you trapped in the past, in the pain, and in the memory of what you've lost. Grief can be a catalyst for change. It can be the force that pushes you to reevaluate your life, your relationships, and your purpose. Because when you lose someone, you realize how fragile life is, how quickly things can change, and how much you truly value what you have. It teaches you to appreciate the present, to hold on to what's still in your life, and to cherish every moment. Grief doesn't take away your ability to love or to find joy. It just reminds you of the importance of doing so while you still have the chance. It teaches you to love more fiercely, to give more generously, and to live with greater intention. So, the next time you encounter someone who's withdrawn, who's carrying that weight of grief, don't assume that they're just shutting themselves off from the world. Understand that they're carrying something that's incredibly heavy, something that many of us may never fully comprehend. But don't let that grief define them. Instead, be there, show up, remind them that even in the darkest moments, they're not alone. Because the truth is, we're all carrying something. We all have our burdens, our losses, our grief. And when we come together, when we understand and support each other, we make that load a little lighter. Grief may never fully go away. It may change over time, evolve, and take different forms. But it doesn't have to silence you. It doesn't have to isolate you. It's okay to feel that pain, to honor what you've lost, but you also have the power to move forward. And that's where your strength lies, your ability to carry that grief with dignity, to honor the past, and to keep moving forward with hope. That's the true power you have. You don't have to let the weight of loss define you. You have the strength to rise above it and create a life that's still worth living. And that, my friend, is something truly extraordinary. So as we navigate the changing nature of relationships, let us remember that change is not a sign of failure, but rather an invitation to evolve. It's a challenge that forces us to look deeper, to connect more authentically, and to let go of what no longer serves us. Yes, it can be uncomfortable. Yes, it can be painful at times. But it is also an opportunity to grow, to embrace new beginnings, and to surround ourselves with people who truly understand and support us in our journey. Relationships will always change, just as we change. But in those changes, we find the chance to redefine what truly matters, to strengthen the bonds that will endure, and to let go of those that hold us back. And in doing so, we become better versions of ourselves, not only for ourselves, but for those we choose to walk alongside. So don't fear the change. Embrace it. Let it shape you, let it teach you, and let it remind you that the most meaningful connections are the ones that encourage growth, understanding, and love, no matter how much time passes. The relationships that endure will be the ones that allow you to become your best self. Keep moving forward, and remember, every change is just another step toward building the life and the connections you've always dreamed of.